Holy curse.
Parties.
Holy curse. Oh my God, how cursed is this? Jesus. I also like, by the way, that Amy is making this video half a year into these legal proceedings. She's taking every single thing the plaintiff says at face value. She isn't evaluating any of, well, maybe she will hear on later on, isn't evaluating any of the later legal documents submitted, and is doing the exact same thing that she was on all these red pill shows when she was trying to get red pill.
But it gets worse. He once argued that if Trump won in 2024, drone strikes on MAGA protesters would be justified and necessary. There's evidently a playbook here, guys. Dehumanize.
Did I say that? That drone strikes? Wait, what is the context of that statement? Wait, what is this video? How Destiny became the internet's most vile streamer.
This one is personal. When I began my journey in political commentary, I made the decision that I would speak to absolutely everyone. And when I say that, I mean literally everyone. Not just people who agreed with me, in fact, especially not just people who agreed with me, but across the entire spectrum, left, right, libertarian, progressive, anarchist. I didn't want an echo chamber. I actually wanted arguments that tested my thinking, not ones built from these cardboard cutouts. And that's the mentality that honestly led me to valuetainment. And it's the mentality behind the creation of this idea for dangerous conversations. And it was in that same spirit that I first met.
Wasn't she literally a friend of the stream? Kind of friendly-ish. She started to get turned onto the team Farha and team Lauren though a long time ago, which was funny because she messaged me once asking me to clarify something because I think Lauren or Jasmine had told her something that wasn't true, and then we had a conversation about, I saw my Instagram DMs with her, we had a conversation about it and I provided proof, and I'm like, no, these people lie like crazy. But if you remain in any social group long enough, eventually you'll turn. But it's so funny because I still have this whole group of friends is like insane. We had a phone call about it. Oh, and then their text messages afterwards. So yeah, so I definitely still have those. But okay, all right. Well, let's hear what did I personally do to slight this person who I've never had a bad interaction with or done anything bad to interpersonally ever in my entire life. Let's go.
And it's the mentality behind the creation of this idea for dangerous conversations. And it was in that same spirit that I first met Stephen Bennell Jr., better known as Destiny, a couple of years.
Junior? I'm the second. Okay.
Now, he was one of the first major streamers to really take me seriously, meaning he had me on his show several times. We debated, we disagreed, sometimes even aligned, surprisingly. And over time, we honestly built a rapport. You know, we shared friendship groups, group chats, we met up at birthday parties, and actually had some legitimately interesting conversations. Everything from values to philosophy and politics. Group chats, we met up at birthday
Holy curse.
parties.
Xena's the only real one here.
And actually,
Xena the queen so far. Holy curse. Oh my God, how cursed is this? Jesus.
had some legitimately interesting conversations, everything from values to philosophy and politics. And despite our differences, I always thought that there was like this mutual respect between us. But then everything changed. Everything changed when one of our mutual friends, another streamer who ran in our same circle, came forward with a disturbing allegation. Her name is Pixie, and she alleges that Destiny recorded her in a private moment and then sent that footage onto somebody else who then leaked it online for the entire world to see. And she never agreed to any of this. So currently, she is pursuing legal action. And according to her, it recorded her in a private moment and then sent that footage onto somebody else who then leaked it online for the entire world to see. And she never agreed to any of this. So currently...
What was the catalyst for the falling apart of that friend group? Probably a combination of Farha and Lauren would be my guess. I don't know how Farha plugged in though. Lauren is like a Kelly kind of person who she will sit in a friend group and do work for as long as she needs to though.
She is pursuing legal action. And according to her, she is not alone. She actually claims that there are multiple women with similar experiences. And for me, that was the moment. It was clear cut. I walked away from Destiny entirely. No ambiguity, no second chances.
We haven't talked in a long time. She didn't walk away from shit. I don't think we talked for like a year before that, but okay.
That crossed a line that really doesn't get to be blurred. And to make matters even worse, Destiny didn't even deny it. I actually covered this entire situation, like every single part of it on The Unusual Suspects earlier this year. But honestly, guys, things have only gotten crazier since then. So if you are at all interested in helping out with Pixie's case against Destiny, there is a link to her.
What happened with Farha? I think I've talked about this before, haven't I? Listen, just breaking up with Melina just introduced a lot of complexity to my life. Without getting too deep into the weird shit, Farha was just on some really weird, like, saying different things to me and Melina in ways that were, like, super sus and trying to get me and Melina to separate so that Farha could date me. It was just, like, really crazy, bizarro, sus shit. I feel like didn't I go over all this on stream? I feel like I did this a long time ago. I don't want to fucking rehash all of this, like, all of this shit because it's all just like, it's super weird and cringy interpersonal shit. But like, I guess so one example of this would be when it came to a boyfriend that Farha had, like she was telling Melina how much she was like super in love with this guy and, you know, like cherished him and wanted to move down with him and blah, blah, blah. But then when she would talk to me, she would like give me her phone. She'd be like, oh, like you should text this dude and like, you know, make him sound stupid for this, or you should do this. And I'm like, why don't you just break up with this dude or whatever? And she's like, oh, I cheat him all the time and blah, blah, blah. I mean, okay, whatever, Jesus. But yeah, it was just like, that's like one of like 50, and there's like more like crazy, weird, bizarro shit that, yeah. So there's just, once I had figured out, when I feel like, I don't remember what I said publicly about all this or not. When Lauren De Laguna accused me of like secretly recording people, because she wanted to throw that out there. It was in regards to a conversation that I'd had with Farha that I recorded so that Melina and I could listen to it, because somebody was going crazy here. Because every time I would talk to Melina and then every time I would talk to Farha, I'd get like completely different stories about fucking everything. I'm like, okay, I don't understand how I can have the same conversation with both of you and hear completely different things. So then I recorded a conversation with Farha, and then, you know, I was going through it with Melina. I'm like, okay, this is, and then she would show me the episode with Farha, and I'd be like, okay, this is like crazy. This is like, she's telling completely different things to both stories, or to both parties here. That's why when everybody used to ask in the past, like, oh, why doesn't Farha come over anymore? That's why that separation happened. I thought I went over this on stream, or maybe I never said this publicly, but.
Her fundraising platform in the description of this video. She is fighting a battle that no one should ever have to fight alone, but fortunately she's seen
You did? Okay, yeah, I went over all this, I think. Okay.
a huge surge in support since going public with her story. This goes deeper than one alleged violation. In her statement, Pixie actually outlined how Destiny used his influence to manipulate dynamics within friend groups, how he downplayed what happened, even joked about it, and then turned mutual friends against her. Her best friend at the time.
Also, for everybody saying that, like, and people say this, I wish I could go over this with more substance if I was allowed to read off that transcript. Like, the honest truth is, so if you're getting sued for something, so one, these are like, the person is asking for a high dollar amount, okay? So regardless, the problem is the strategy for winning in court and the strategy for talking to the public don't always coincide. So the idea that, like, there's this very naive and retarded thing, and even fucking you retards are saying this on my fan base, like, oh, like, Jesse should just take accountability and blah, blah, blah. If there's a person on one side of this looking for $15 million, I'm not going to say fucking anything about this. Like, they can try to fight for and prove every aspect of this in court. Like, there's no way that I have any navigable room to start saying shit like, oh, like, maybe I made a mistake here. Maybe, no, fuck that. I'll allow them to prove every single aspect of that if they want to sue me for, like, when we're talking about, you know, like, life-ending sums of money. That's retarded. And anybody that would have that expectation of me talking with specificity to the stuff that she's alleging in any of the courts was crazy. Now, as we've gone through the process more, and then I've seen where they're falling on things, and I see like how things have been filed, now I'm like more comfortable with it, right? In the beginning, the reason why I didn't say anything with specificity to like, oh, like, did anybody have consent here or whatever, is because the first part of the honest truth is that these are conversations happened a long fucking time ago. This is like 5 years ago, 6 years ago when we recorded these videos, and these were conversations in person. And I don't want to say something with like an imperfect recollection and then end up committing myself to some like storyline or committing myself to some, phrasing that I'm like, oh, fuck, no, wait, I don't think that I said that. Because if I say anything publicly, obviously, right, Joanne, I guess, who doesn't have a job besides, sitting in her legal office watching my streams all day, is going to start throwing these things in court filings. But if I could read off our transcript, now all the stuff that Pixie was saying under oath does align with stuff that I remember. And I would feel more confident if I could read it. Like, for instance, like, I think funnily enough, I think Pixie gives 3 different answers in court about the agreement about us recording stuff. I think the first thing she says is, we recorded stuff, but we agreed to not like send it around to people or whatever. That roughly aligns, like, yeah, like, just don't like send it to everybody, obviously, right? You don't want it to leak. Then I think the second time, I think she says, I agreed for him to only show it to his wife. And then the third time, I think she says, I didn't agree for him to send it to anybody. So I think she gives 3 separate answers in the span of 1 hour. Now, if I'm being charitable to her side, it's because she probably doesn't explicitly and specifically remember. But this like kind of aligns with, like, yeah, I'm pretty sure, like, I have like a general conversation about recording stuff or whatever. And then this is like generally, in the hearing, did the judge ask you questions too? Yeah, we were both on the stand, yeah. But I mean, it's a long time ago. But the idea that like I have to come out and give some crystal clear statement, like right at the beginning of all of this, like, bro, this is a big civil case. Like, I'm sorry that you're not happy that I'm not going to come out and layer, like all of these answers that the, plaintiff can use to layer their legal arguments as perfectly as they want. Fuck that. That's insane. I also like, by the way, that Amy is making this video months, half a year into these legal proceedings. She's taking every single thing the plaintiff says at face value. She isn't evaluating any of, well, maybe she will hear on later on, isn't evaluating any of the later legal documents submitted, and is doing the exact same thing that she was on all these red pill shows when she was trying to get red pill dick, trying to smash Myron and everything. And oh, don't believe women, and, women lie all the time. But now she's like team, 100% woman, I guess, because of however, I guess, where the political dominoes fall is fucking hilarious. So good job, queen.
I'm Erin, how he downplayed what happened, even joked about it, and then turned mutual friends against her. Her best friend at the time, Erin, even while apologizing publicly and acting like he had taken responsibility for what was done. It was a masterclass in manipulation.
I love this too, how I'm always, where are my manipulations? What are these manipulations? What?
But guys, this isn't just about abuse. It's about control, and the kind of control that thrives in digital spaces where clout is currency and silence is protection. But despite the very clear evidence and the public attention, none of the platforms that have supported Destiny's career have even spoken out against him. There were no bans, no demonetization, no accountability.
Like, think of how insane what she's saying is. So if somebody sues you for something, you should automatically get banned and demonetized from every platform? Like, damn, she left the Red Pill arc, I guess, and went completely in the other direction? Like, what the fuck?
If anything, his brand has actually only grown. And unfortunately, this is a pattern that we have seen before, where creators are shielded by popularity and really profitability at the end of the day. This is an ecosystem where saying...
Like, this was the #1 Andrew Tate defender. Did she change her position on him?
There are two genders, get to penalize consequences that Destiny himself experienced back in 2022 when he was in somewhat more of a base frame of mind. But disturbing sexual content without consent somehow doesn't carry any serious repercussions whatsoever. But guys, Destiny actually sucks for many, many, many more reasons than the one that we just covered. Over the 4th of July weekend, Central Texas was devastated by flash floods that have claimed dozens of lives. Hundreds are still missing, and it has left communities devastated. As prayers and consolations poured in from all over the country, Destiny entered the conversation as well. And what was his take? Well, mostly just jokes about how the victims actually deserved it. I'm not being hyperbolic. This is actually what he said. Maybe the kids weren't fit for camping near a river if they couldn't swim, which he wrote in reference to the 27 young girls killed at a Christian summer camp in the flooded valley. He went on to quip that God killed those kids because they were using NordVPN to get around the Texas porn ban. Now, NordVPN quickly clarified that they do not sponsor Destiny.
Oh, I bet Lauren and Pixie begged her to to put her fundraiser in here. Jesus Christ.
Nor do they stand behind any of these reprehensible comments, and they may even pursue legal action, as they should, because there are documented damages on record of people canceling their Nord subscriptions. But his response, of course, it was that this was just another joke at the company's expense. As outrage grew over his remarks, he basically abandoned...
That's such a good tweet.
Of course, it was that this was just another joke at the company's expense.
Oh, shit.
As outrage grew over his remarks, he basically abandoned all pretense and jumped just right into the politicization of everything. In short, this is what he said. It's a very disgusting post to read, but he says, don't ever forget, these are the same people who tell you jokes are back when they're laughing it up over families being destroyed by deportation, LGBT being kicked out of the military, and friends being murdered in Ukraine by a genocidal maniac, all because they're too spineless to break with the inhumane machine that is MAGA. Just, I don't know how any of those things, which many of those are actually really valid points.
Because you don't know anything about politics. You're fucking retarded. We know. We got it.
Are, not by him, valid points on MAGA's behalf, right? Trans out of the military, all of these things. How is that possibly comparable to the death of young children? It's just, he's living in a different reality. But this is a pattern. When Corey Comprator, husband, father, firefighter, and a Trump supporter, was killed during the attempt on Trump's life in Butler, Pennsylvania, Destiny called him a fucking retard. And said,
keep in mind, my comments are way nicer than the Trump crowd's, okay? I just think the guy's fucking retarded. These guys literally believe that God sent the bullet into this dude's fucking skull. All right.
That he was having fun in hell with Ashley Babbitt, the woman killed by Capitol Police on January 6th. Now, this did actually lead to some repercussions. His account was banned from Kick. But it gets worse. He once argued that if Trump won in 2024, drone strikes on MAGA protesters would be justified and necessary. There's evidently a playbook here, guys. Dehumanize.
Did I say that? That drone strikes? Wait, what is the context of that statement?
Under the guise of intellect, promote outrage, and then retreat behind irony. But when the followers you cultivate actually start believing the performance and echoing the cruelty, it stops being a joke, and this is when it becomes culture. So what we're witnessing isn't just personal decline, it is psychological. It's a political radicalization in real time, honestly. Studies from Harvard and UC Berkeley actually show how social media-driven political content actually rewires the brain. Constant exposure to tribal conflict activates fear centers and dulls empathy. But over time, people don't just disagree. They see ideological opponents as existential threats to their existence, as less than a human. Psychologists actually call this moral disengagement. That's what...
Wow. Certainly she's not a massive Trump supporter thinking this, right?
Let somebody essentially laugh at death, justify abuse, and then call it righteous clarity for their following. And Destiny, in my opinion, he's become one of the clearest examples that I've ever seen of that transformation. This is someone who I believe used to be relatively sane. This is someone who once stood for debate, logic, critical thought, and now he weaponizes trauma for clout and calls cruelty realism. It's not realism. It's not activism. It is ego. And the tragedy is that he's built a following on the myth that he's the rational one. He's above the fray. But truly, no rational person justifies harm to women, mocks the dead, or laughs at grief to win arguments. So ultimately, guys, this isn't about disagreement. This is about dehumanization. That's what he's doing. Pixie's case isn't just about what happened to her. It's about what her silence and other silence allowed to happen for years.
What silence? This motherfucker literally is making public posts and tweeting about it. What are you talking about?
About the so-called allies who turned away, about the platform culture that ultimately rewarded it all. So if you think this is an isolated incident, it's not. This is what happens when platforms reward outrage, ignore ethics, and when creators become untouchable because they are profitable. When a fan base defends the indefensible because they mistake charisma for character. That's what's happening here. Now, I want to round out the segment by saying that what Pixie is doing takes courage, but this whole thing isn't just about her lawsuit. It's about whether we finally draw a line, whether we hold people accountable even when it's inconvenient, even when they wear the mask of intellect. And Destiny, this is just drama, it's performative, it's hyperbole.
Fuck, the mask of intellect. So not only have they stolen the aesthetic of like rationality, now they're fighting me on, now they have the aesthetic of talking about the aesthetic of rationality. What the fuck?
None of that matters. When the truth lands and the mask slips, there won't be any arguments left to win. There will only be accountability. And that's what is owed, not just to Pixie, but to anyone who's watched this industry excuse cruelty in the name of content. Because Guys, empathy isn't weakness. It's actually one of the only things keeping us from turning into the very thing that we claim to oppose.
Xena in chat says, none of these girls are even friends anymore and can't stand one another from what they've told me. LOL. I have no problems with Amy as we never had a falling out, but her recent distasteful words about Destiny news to me. However, the Zionist couldn't stand living with the fairy femcel. Is that supposed to be Lauren and Pixie? And moved with the Australian Amy. Yeah, that friend group goes back and forth a ton. I remember when Pixie and Lauren lived together for a little bit, but Lauren was getting into so many fights with her roommate, and then I had to help Pixie stand up to Lauren when it came to disagreeing on things, because Lauren's dog, I guess, would like pee and poop all over the apartment, and Pixie didn't know how to deal with it. And I was like, you guys should have like a board with like responsibilities or something, I guess. And then I think eventually they all moved out though. So I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I don't know what it all ended up with eventually, but Jesus.